Hey, good morning. Are any of your agents coming?
Yes, so Maudie should be here any second, and
Okay.
then I don't think Kaylin can because she's subbing again, but
Okay. But
Kennedy's
it's being recorded. It is being recorded.
okay, great.
I did have a lady reach out to me about the number 607 saying that her client was really, really interested. So I'm going to reach out to her again today.
607. You're talking to me?
Yeah, the condo just down from our office.
Oh, yeah, I'm drawing a blank. That's good.
Yeah.
That's real good.
I'm trying to figure out who owns the one next door to me. I hope it's not the guys that are in there. God, they're loud. And not loud in like a nice fun way, loud like cussing at each other loud.
Oh.
Like it's very difficult.
The accounting firm?
No, it's Big Rig Insurance.
Guess that's a stressful job.
It's kind of like the Steely Dan.
Well, they need to get their own damn building if it's that stressful.
It's like, Steely Dan is known to get in fights while they're on stage in the middle of a concert.
So hard to look up a condo on the tax records.
The one next door.
Let me know when you're ready for me to get going. I'm just waiting on your girls.
Okay. Let me see how far she is. She said she's pulling up, so any minute.
It is not. Good. They're just leasing.
While we're waiting, I have a quick question.
Mhm.
Do I need to add to my website the Trek Consumer Protection Notice?
Yeah, and if you use the link from Trek
Yeah,
to insert it, then anytime they update it, you won't have to worry about updating your
okay,
website
okay,
because you'll be using the official form.
okay. I have it posted on my computer here to add it to.
Yes, that
Okay.
is required. Absolutely.
That's what I thought.
Because that is basically a virtual office, right? So it is
Yeah, right.
absolutely required.
Mhm. Okay.
What do you pay for your website, if you don't mind me asking?
$113 a year,
Got it. Okay,
but I design it myself.
right, right.
So I'll add that consumer protection notice on there, the link for it.
And
And
that,
whenever you get a chance, I'll go into the office and I'll show you what it looks like.
oh, I pull it up occasionally, and so does Mackenzie.
So you know what it looks like.
Oh, yes, it's our job to make sure that we know what our agents are doing.
Okay, so you know what my website looks like.
Every so often, we just run a search of our agents and make sure that we have everybody's websites and everything else. We find you guys on Google and we do some creeping and all the things. It's my job. I have, like, if your website is not in compliance, then that comes to me. That falls to
Okay,
me for
so
not knowing what my agents are doing. And Trek is getting serious about that
oh
too.
yeah, I know. So I'm going to be adding that on this week.
Um, you don't have any search capabilities on your website.
Not right now.
So, well, I mean, if you use the one that Classic Realty is providing, it gives you a CRM and search capabilities.
And
Um,
that's
you can take your royalbutler.com
uh-huh.
and direct it to your agent subsite.
That's exactly
So,
what I'm going to do.
so that you still have that, you know what I mean? So that
Yeah,
you still have the same website that you've been advertising for so many years. You still got the
right.
same website. They're going in there, but they have search capabilities. And whenever they enter their information, you now have them in your CRM. So if
Uh,
you're funneling anything from any of your social media, when you funnel your contacts into the website, it'll pick that up and add them to your CRM.
And that's the next stage that I'm going to do.
Yeah. So
So,
just
okay.
go on GoDaddy and redirect it.
Yeah, I use Bluehost.
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
GoDaddy and Bluehost are pretty much they're two different brands, but
Yes.
they basically what I like about Bluehost is that you can do a WordPress site, but it doesn't say WordPress dot whatever your address is. It
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
has your address. And the GoDaddy does the same thing. I've been with Bluehost for like, I don't know, upwards of 15 years.
Good morning, Marty.
Hello.
Okay, so basically, Evan brought up that this topic was her idea, as was next week's. Next week, we're going to discuss branding yourself. I almost feel like Caesar might be able to take that one away. Evan probably could too. But so next week we're going to discuss branding yourself. So that'll be another good topic for us. But having conversations with the cooperating agent, whether you're representing a buyer or seller, and having a conversation with the title company and the lender, what do those conversations look like whenever you're getting under a contract? I will tell you that my conversation this morning with a listing agent was, when the hell are your people going to sign? We had an agreement, a verbal agreement a couple of days ago. I just need a signature. Are we gonna be able to get this thing to the title company today? Um, staying on top of stuff like that, because the reality of the situation is they are still live on the MLS. We don't have a signed contract. God forbid somebody else would come in with a higher offer. They don't have to sign the contract for my offer, right? That they are not officially under contract. So my buyer is still at risk for losing this place if somebody comes in with a higher offer. So until we have a signed document in hand, I'm not going to rest easy, and I'm going to keep hounding her until I get that signed document. So that was my conversation this morning. Um, prior to writing an offer, I always pick up the phone and call the listing agent. So if I'm representing the buyer, I'm not even going to write the offer until I call the listing agent. I'm going to find out, what is the seller's situation? Are they, listing high, hoping to get, hoping, they've got a little bit of wiggle room and they're expecting a lower offer. So yes, we're a little bit high. Sometimes we hear that, right? But only if you call and have that conversation with them. Yes, we know we're a little bit high. We're expecting buyers in this market to come in lower. So we want to, hit market value whenever at the end of the day, right? Did they get burnt? Sometimes in the conversation you'll find out, or you've gone on in the MLS and you've seen there's a history, like they've been under contract in the past and they went off contract, right? So asking the question, what happened to the other buyer? Why did the other buyer fall out? Was it something that showed up on the inspection? If there was something where the seller got burnt, you're going to hear about it in that conversation. The seller's going to come in, the seller's agent is going to come in and say, oh my God, it was awful. We really got burnt on that. And my seller is now sore about it, right? So then you know that your option period needs to really feel good to that seller, right? Like it needs to be shorter, or maybe it needs to be a little bit more, but explain that to your buyer. The seller already got burnt on option. They're probably not going to be willing to give you, 10 days for $100, right? I don't know what norm is for Waco. I'm giving you what would be low in Austin. What is norm for Waco, Evan?
We see about 150 to 200.
For how many days?
10.
Okay, so that would be normal for you guys. Okay,
Mhm.
so in that case, you might come in and say, we can't go in and ask for 2 weeks and only give them $75 or $100.
Yeah.
That would be the equivalent in your area, right? Because you know that your seller's already gotten burned. In some situations, where you're offering, market price and it's just going to squeak by on appraisal, maybe you're giving a little bit more for earnest money because your client is putting half down. You've got one of those investor clients that's putting more money down. So, maybe then you want to come in and ask for option like that. But if the seller's already been burnt, you want to kind of take that into consideration with your offer, right? And you'll hear that if you pick up the phone and call the listing agent ahead of time, to kind of get what the seller's sore spots are. If you've got a seller situation where one spouse has already moved for their job and the other spouse has stayed behind until the house gets sold because the one spouse is staying in, some sort of maybe a motel or temporary housing. And so mom and kids and dog have had to stay here so they don't have to, pay for extra lease space, right? They can get away with something a little bit cheaper when just one of them moves. So finding out those sore spots, now okay, we've got, a separated family. They're going to want to close sooner. We don't want to ask for a 45 or a 60-day close. We want to push this as close as possible, right? So then you're going to get on the horn with your lender and say, hey, Mr. Lender, we're making an offer on this place, and this is the situation of the sellers. We need to know how fast you can get this closed for us. What are you going to need from the buyer in order to get this closed fast? Then the next next thing is you're going to pick up the buyer. Okay, we're going to make this offer. I've already had a conversation with the lender and told him we need to get it closed fast because this is the seller situation. Are you comfortable with us ordering the appraisal right away? If not, let's get the inspection ordered quick and look through those documents quick so we can order the inspection, right? We're going to be on a timeline. Does your lender have everything you need? I tell my lender when I have that conversation with them, if you're having any issues getting documentation from my client, call me. I'll light a fire under them, right? I will help you get the documents you need. If I need to meet with them and go through their bank statements and scan everything to you myself, I've done it numerous times. If that's what it takes to make this happen, I'm all in. Like, let's get it done, right? So sometimes in the conversation with your buyer, they might say something like, "Oh, I just need to find a place to have something scanned because I don't have that at my house." Great, bring it by the office. I'll get it taken care of for you. I've got the dang thing on my phone. I can go meet with you at your house and scan it and email it over to your lender right from there. And then I'm going to stand there and show you I'm deleting all of your important documents. I just emailed them to your lender. Watch me delete them off of my program, right? So I'm going to do that as well. But so whenever you're meeting, say with a buyer client, right? You're going to talk about how far have you gone through the process? What all have you provided to your lender? Get on the phone with the lender. What else are you needing? How long is it going to take you, Mr. Lender? This is a question you're going to ask whether you're representing the seller or the buyer. How long is it going to take you to get them through underwriting without the property, to get this buyer through underwriting, right? Sometimes lenders go, "Oh, we can't do anything until we get a property." Yes, you can. If a lender says that to you, move on to another lender that understands that they can send somebody through without a property, right? Now, that's just a pre-approval. That doesn't actually necessarily qualify as property. We understand that, but we want to get them more through the process. I tell my buyers all the time, if you love it, so does somebody else. like that's just the fact of the matter. So what if it's been on the market for 60 days? If you just fell in love with it, somebody else probably did too. Why are you looking at it? Oh, because your interest rate went down. Guess how many other buyers are out there doing the same damn thing? And if you love this house, so does somebody else. Right? So don't lollygag on getting your information to your lender. Don't lollygag on getting your pre-approval, right? I'm guilty of this, going and showing houses before I have a pre-approval because I want to establish that relationship with this person, right? And then while I'm in the house, I'm going to have a discussion about their approval. Well, these days, make sure that you don't have any recordings going on before you have that discussion. In the past, I always did. But I'm going to have that discussion on that first meeting. Maybe we're going to step outside. Maybe we're going to go sit in somebody's car, right? And have that discussion about, how far have you gotten on your pre-approval? But first, you've got to get chest to chest. You've got to get face to face with them and make that connection. Sometimes if I'm meeting somebody for the very first time, I'll meet them at, let's say, a coffee shop or something and say, "Hey, I've got a list of places for us to go see today. And I want to sit down and discuss some of your criteria because I don't want to confuse you by taking you to too many places. So let's sit down and talk a little bit about your criteria." And we'll just meet at a coffee shop, typically in the neighborhood they want, right? So you guys are the same way in Waco, right? You've got this large area that you represent, okay? So you're going to drive from west to meet somebody at a cute coffee shop in Lorena, introduce them to their new area, right? So we're going to meet at a cute little coffee shop in Lorena, and then we're going to discuss it, and then we'll go look at the other houses in Lorena that we're looking at, right? So whatever that looks like, maybe it's Hewitt, wherever it is, but meet them in that area and go to a little coffee shop, go over. I take my laptop, connect to my hotspot before I ever get out of my car. So when I open it up, I don't have to wait on that connection. It's already done before I walk in there. It just looks a bit more put together. I don't have to go, unless I know the coffee shop, right? If my laptop knows the coffee shop and it's going to connect to its Wi-Fi right away, then that's great. If my laptop does not know that coffee shop and automatically connect to it, I have my Wi-Fi connected immediately. But when you're sitting and talking to them, find out how far they've gotten through their process for their pre-approval, how much they have to put down. Does that leave them anything at all? Does everybody have, do you guys have my template on to send to buyers as to what they're going to spend during the contract? Does everybody have that template?
I don't think so.
I'm going to make myself a note to share it. Evan, I'm going to make you an editor on it.
Okay.
Can I do that? I might have to put it into the drive. I'm going to have to put that into the drive. Maybe I should take all of my templates and put them into the drive, but I might give you that task, Evan.
Okay, that'll work.
To your point, I had a friend, a realtor friend, that they didn't get them pre-approved, and they started showing them houses, and they
Yeah.
wanted a five bedroom house, but turns out they could only afford a three bedroom house.
Right. Yeah.
So
I have
basically,
had
the realtor was wasting their time running around.
Yes, it's ridiculous. I have had people come sit in my office. We had this pre-meeting. During the pre-meeting, we went ahead and called the lender. Calling the lender, we got approved. We went and looked at houses. We got under a contract the same day. And these people's heads were spinning like, wow, we didn't even know that we could be approved. Like this was a pre-conversation, and here we're going to be moving into this place in a month. I'm so excited. Right. But I have buyers' emails that I have saved just as templates that you can send to your buyers. It gives them an idea of, especially whenever you talk to the buyer and go, oh my God, we've been saving for a year. We finally have 3% saved up for our down payment. Have you thought of closing costs? Are we looking only at USDA? Who's going to pay for your inspection? Right? What if there's not a survey and the seller refuses to pay for it? Right? So having this conversation of realistically the amount that they need to have saved up, because many times this is my heart though, these first time home buyers or people recovering from credit issues, that's my heart. Those are the ones I want to help the most to become homeowners, and those are typically your blue collar workers that are having to work harder to make it happen. What do they have saved up? And what can we do if they need to save more? Are there other options? Asking the seller to help pay for closing costs, looking at USDA. Maybe they have a military background where we can get a VA, or maybe they're a spouse of a military. Sometimes if it's a widow whose spouse was military, she can still use those VA benefits, right? So having that conversation, this happens in that first meeting. So yes, I will every time take the call and say, yes, let's go look at some properties. When are you coming into town? Great. I'm going to set aside the day for you. That entire day is yours. We're going to first meet at this coffee shop and get our plan of action in place so that we use your time valuably. I don't mention my time. We're using your time valuably, not that they don't give two shits about my time. They're concerned about their time, right? Which is also the reason that I typically tell people I have an appointment. They don't have to know that my appointment is training agents right now. But it's my appointment. My buyer knows that at noon, whenever I get finished with my 10 o'clock and my 11 o'clock appointments, I'm going to be letting her know if we have her contract signed now, right? She just knows I have appointments. Maybe I'm showing other buyers. I don't answer my phone typically when I am showing buyers or when I'm at a seller's house. Like if I am face to face with them, they are my top priority. Now, sometimes I will say, and I have been guilty of this specifically when my son was overseas or when he was in boot camp. I would say, my son is in the military, and if his name shows up on my phone, I'll be answering it because I have not talked to him in X amount of time, and this may be the only opportunity I get. And it has only happened once, but I gave that spiel, and then he called. It only happened to me once. And I literally, like, the seller, we were in the middle of signing listing documents. The seller saw my phone go off. She saw the name that I had mentioned. It was Timothy. And she was like, "Is that the Timothy?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am, it is." And I grabbed my phone and walked outside.
Completely different situation.
Do what?
Completely different situation.
Yeah, but typically I don't. I have my phone with me to calculate for them, right? That is typically the reason, or to look up additional properties or additional information about the property that we're looking at. That's the only reason I use my phone whenever I do take it because I got to get into the house with my super, right? But I typically don't. I don't answer other calls. I also, one thing I do with my sellers is show them how quickly, like I operate the super and show them how quickly that message comes through on my phone so they know how protected their property is whenever we're putting that super box on it. Okay. Especially if they're kind of anxious about having people come in their house. And I do that even when there's tenants in the house. I show the tenants even, this is how quick it happens. So I know as soon as somebody accesses that lockbox. So sometimes if you have anxious tenants in the house or an anxious seller in the house, it can help to show them that information. So let's see. You're going to have a conversation with the seller's agent if you're representing the buyer. Listen very, very closely for cues. Let them talk a little bit. Listen closely for cues about, I mean, I've had them bring up, they loved those curtains because they were, whatever. Oh, great. Do they want to take the curtains with them? I can put that in the contract, right? No problem. My buyer doesn't care about those curtains, right? So listen carefully to what the seller is saying whenever your buyer has expressed interest on a particular house that they want to make an offer on, right? I don't make that call to the seller typically. I might have a quick call with the seller's agent before I show properties, just so that I know, like, hey, this seller is going to need to lease back. This seller is going to need a faster close. Whatever, if there's anything particular. Or this one, they are actually reviewing an offer, but it's a low offer, so we have some room, right? So I try to call the sellers before I ever show the house, the seller's agent before I ever show the house. But then I call and have another conversation before I write the offer, right? About what they specifically need. Is the washer and dryer staying? We didn't realize there was a washer and dryer in the house. Is the seller open to that? Right? Hey, she loved the bird bath. Is the seller open to leaving that? Anything like that you might want to bring up.
I have
Yeah,
something to say to that too.
yeah,
So I was actually discussing this with a local title rep yesterday because they're familiar with Austin's MLS, and the CTX MLS puts it as a option to put preferred title
yeah,
in there, and then the Waco MLS has no box for that. So no agents here put preferred title officer. And that was a question I used to ask all the time if I did not see it in the Austin MLS. Was if I wasn't talking to them, I was texting them first. Also, it helps because the seller's agent likes that because they have the listing regardless if the title work's already open or not. It just helps you look good to them and they want to work with you because you're trying to work with them. So I
yeah,
think that's important conversation to have ahead of time too, is who is the preferred title that you have and is the title already open somewhere? So we don't just go pick some random place that it
yeah,
could have been much smoother transaction somewhere else.
yeah. No, exactly. Has the title already been open is a huge question to ask. Because it's a nightmare to switch that. And the seller's going to owe more money. They're going to have to pay for that open title search if it doesn't close there. So that is a very good point. I'm the buyer's agent that will always put my own title company on there, for one reason. I've worked with them enough to know that they're consistent.
Mhm.
Sandy has been at Capital Title in the Round Rock office for as long as I've been in business. I know how she operates. She knows how I operate. It's consistent. She consistently gets it right. So I really, when I'm talking to the agent, I'll ask, is there a reason, what is it about this title company? Is there a reason? Like, I'll have that because I know Sandy over here is going to be consistent. She's going to handle things right. There's going to be no mistakes, consistently no mistakes, right? And I'll bring that up. Most of the time they'll tell me I can have my title company. Sometimes I hear, this title company has already done this on there, or we've already had one offer on it. So title is already open. She already has the documentation. She already has the survey, whatever, right? So it makes sense then to go with that title company. That is a very, very good point, to be sure you're having that conversation about title company, as well as all of the other terms in the contract. Don't forget, the title company too. A lot of times, because we have that preferred title on there on most of ours, a lot of times there will be a listing in Gerald and the preferred title company is South Austin. Now, why in the devil would you do that? And then, so a lot of times I say, is the preferred title company in South Austin because that's where the seller is moving to? Oh, no, it's just who my broker always uses. Oh, is it, maybe the seller works there? Is it more convenient for the seller? And then it makes them stop and go, actually, no, it's going to be really inconvenient for the seller to drive from their job in Round Rock to close this thing in South Austin. So just asking those questions. Well, would you be opposed, or do you think the seller would be opposed to closing in Round Rock next to where they work? Curious, right? My buyer works there. It would be more convenient for my buyer, right? So a lot of times just having that conversation about the convenience for buyer and seller will get you a different title company so that your buyer doesn't have to drive across Timbuktu to close. Title company is a very good point. Very good point. Don't just take the one that's listed. Have the conversation.
So one of the things that I do for negotiations is I say, well, let's say the buyer, if they want to pick, the agent wants to pick a particular title company, I'll tell them, okay, yeah, you can pick whatever title company you want. You're paying closing costs.
If you're the buyer or the seller?
If it's the buyer.
Got it.
And so they kind of shut down right after that.
Right. So it's definitely a conversation to have. And it's a negotiation point like anything else.
Right.
So okay. Other questions I can't think of any other questions really to ask the seller's agent. I'm not one to try to get any disclosures. I'd never ask the seller's agent for disclosures because most of that is going to come up in the inspection. And quite frankly, I know my area well enough to know where the muds and the pits are. So I don't need their help with that. I will tell my client, if they don't disclose it, they're just giving my client another out. I know my area well enough to know where the endangered species are, that kind of thing. You're just learning your area. You've got somebody in your office that knows that area well enough that you can go to, right? If Evan can't answer it, Colby probably can. So either one of them are going to be able to give you that information. So that's just something that I don't pursue very heavily because of it being a way out for my client. A clue report is something really good to get. So those are questions. I say questions, but something to have available before you ever go to the inspection so that the inspector can pay closer attention, to the roof, right? Say, the clue report indicates that there was a roof claim. Well, Mr. Inspector, I want to know, when you climbed up on that roof, did it look like it was 2 years old or 5 years old? Right? So I want more than, hey, the roof looks good, right? I want to know a little bit more details, like there was a roof claim, you know, do you think the roof was actually replaced 2 years ago? So I like to have the clue report before we ever go. You get that from your favorite insurance person. Your favorite insurance person hopefully is one that doesn't charge you for it. Lender questions to ask. If you are representing the seller, don't accept an offer without first calling the lender, without talking to the lender. We want to know, and you'll know for your area, or you'll get to know for your area, this is a lender that I trust. When I get something from UFCU, I know it's going to close. When I get a VA from Chad Bowman, I know it's going to close, right? So you'll know your lenders and which ones can actually get the job done, and which ones, like, oh, I've had CMG, dear God, I've done 2 deals with them, and both deals, it was a struggle to get the buyer to the closing table. One, I had the buyer, one, I had the seller, and I think I ended up, no, we did not end up moving the buyer, but we were filling out applications with other lenders. If that lender hadn't been able to get it done, we were moving. But it was just laborious. So, you know, get to know the lenders and which ones are going to do your clients well. But pick up the phone and have a conversation about this particular buyer, right? Even though I'm the selling agent, I have the right to ask certain questions. That lender should not be telling me their credit score, what is on their credit history. That lender should not be telling me that information. If they are, I'm making a mental note to never send my buyer to that lender because that lender is going to give away too much information. And could thereby get me in trouble because I have the information now. I also watch their emails too. If they are accidentally forwarding information, you know, if they're replying and then there's a chain that they should not have forwarded, I don't refer that lender to my buyers either. As the seller's agent, I'm reading all of it. I'm going to creep. I'm going to get the information. Thanks for providing it. But I won't send them any of my buyers. But call them, have the conversation with them, ask them, how much time do you actually need to get this buyer approved? These days, we are seeing 14 to 21 days on that buyer approval in the third-party finance. Are you guys seeing the same thing in your area?
Yes.
Most lenders don't need but 5. Why are people?
No, it's actually starting to be more like 20. Like it's,
yes.
And then I'll have a conversation. I'll say, what is the deal here? Because this is basically giving your buyer an out for a very long time, and our options 10, but their options almost like much longer than that. If you have a third party.
So basically your buyer has an option out all the way up until a week before closing.
Yeah.
Why would my seller agree to do that? And I have had a buyer's agent, when I had the listing here recently, come back to me and say, well, that's the norm. Oh, I understand it's the norm. I'm explaining to you that I've already talked to the lender. He's already told me he can get it done in 5 days. I'm offering you 7. Mm-hmm. That's fair. That's very fair. We ended up at 10 days on that particular contract, and I wrote in the email, whenever we changed it to 10 days, the seller has agreed to accept 10 days with the understanding that if the buyer opts out, we will require a letter from the lender. And the third-party finance addendum gives you the option to ask for that. So if the buyer tries to opt out because of the third-party finance addendum, ask the buyer's agent for a letter from the lender. The lender will not put their job on the line to write something that's not factual.
It's funny you say that because that's the song and dance that all these builders say as well. So, like, you can get your earnest money back if you, for some reason, don't get approved, but they have to have complete proof of that, or you're
Yep,
not getting that money back. And it
that's
should be the
correct.
same
Yep.
for resale.
That's, it's the best way to protect your seller, right?
Mhm. Because
From
then
all that.
whenever you're in the MLS and you've noticed, oh, it went back on the market after 10 days, what's up with that? It looks like an inspection issue, but
Yeah,
really, because they'll put okay, this was because due to buyer financing. But you're kind of thinking, is it really or is it not? So yeah, your seller's
right.
kind of it looks really bad on their house.
Yeah, yeah, it does.
So
Yeah, it does.
I have a
So you
question.
want to protect your sellers from that. So I always call the lender and before, for my seller, before we accept a buyer's offer, I always call the lender and ask, how many days do you actually need to get this buyer through underwriting? How many, question number two, how many of the documents have you verified, right? Have you verified the amount that they make with their banking account? Have you verified what their credit score and their expenses are? Have you actually verified that? Because that's one step closer to them getting underwriting approval, right? Sometimes when they go through underwriting, there's these conditions that come back like, okay, we'll accept this bonus if you can provide X, Y, and Z, right? So we
Yeah.
want to get them through, find out how far they are through that underwriting process. And if I always ask the question too, this is going to tell you how seasoned your lender is. Are there any exceptions that you're expecting when we get to underwriting? If they haven't already put them through underwriting, on looking at the documents that you have in front of you and been able to verify, are there any exceptions that you're expecting from the underwriter? So there's another question that you can ask if they hadn't sent them through underwriting or if it's still in underwriting, right? So because when those exceptions come back, that can make or break a case. So ask them about that. Ask them how strong this buyer is, and if they have enough liquid capital for the amount that they have put in the contract. And I tell the lender, they have said that they are going to put down this amount. They have said that this is going to be their earnest money. They have said that this is going to be their option money. Do they have enough liquid capital for that and all of their inspections? I just ask it straight out. Do they have enough? So, and then
I,
back in the day when we were seeing, and I don't know that we're going to get back to this, but back when we were seeing the waiver of approval, we were also asking, do they have enough capital if the appraisal does not make, right? I don't know that we're going to get back to that, but if by chance you come across that, two things you can do for your seller. You can request proof of funds, but also ask the lender, can you tell that they have the capital to back it up, right? And then what their is how close is their debt to income ratio is also another good thing to get from the lender. If you're working with someone that has a very, very close debt to income ratio and they have to replace the starter in their car, anything like that, their car breaks down, they have to go get a new one. God help us if that happens, because that messes everything up. Like how close is their debt to income ratio, right? So that you know that it could easily tilt one way or another. They're on the border here, and if they spend $1 on a coffee, then it's going to send them over the edge, right? So ask that question too. How close is their debt to income? What I want to hear the lender say is, "Oh my God, they have plenty of room." That's what I want to hear the lender say, right? That's because when the lender says that, I have the strongest possible situation for my seller, right? And then I'm going to mark on my calendar to call back. If the lender has said that they can get this through underwriting in 7 days, I'm going to call that lender back on day 8. Hey, did you get underwriting back?
How is it looking? Are there any exceptions that you're concerned about? Has the appraisal already been ordered? I'm always going to come back. And if he says no, they wanted to get through the inspection period. Well, they already had their inspection. They had the inspection 5 days ago and they've received the inspection report and we've negotiated repairs. We've gotten through that process. Do you know when they're going to want to order the appraisal? This is going to, if it wasn't already on the lender's radar, this is going to initiate the lender to call their buyer and ask them, hey, when do you want to get the appraisal? Are you okay with me ordering the appraisal? Right. So I'm going to be following up with the lender as well as the listing agent. Sometimes I will put an email out to the lender and listing agent together. Has the appraisal been ordered? Right? Because now I have them on both on the same page. They both know I'm talking about it. They both know I want to know when that thing gets ordered so that we can be on the lookout, right? And then I will email them both. Hey, the seller got a call from the appraiser today. I'm keeping everybody in the loop. The appraiser's going by there, right? And I'll ask the lender at that point, when will you expect the order? Right? They may know this particular appraiser and what their timeline is. They may just give you, the book, right? Oh, they have 3 days to provide it to us, right? Or they may give you, oh, this guy's really quick. We normally get it back like by tomorrow, 1 business day, whatever, he may give you some additional information. And then I want to follow back. Hey, trusting everything was great. Right. So be the one to initiate those conversations and stay on top of things. We like to be the proactive agent. The ones that are reactive don't get as many referrals and don't get to the closing table as often. Being proactive is what is going to get you referrals. It's what's going to get you to the closing table most often. Right? It's going to get more of your transactions closed because you were proactive, you were staying on top of it. Have you ever heard of the Tickle system? We used to use it in, if you were in the medical field or the legal field ever in a previous life, then you've heard of the Tickle system. Basically, when you pick up a file, I'm showing you a physical file, it wasn't this big. When you pick up a file and you do something with it, you have to put a date on the calendar when you're going to retrieve that file from the filing cabinet again, right? Never hang up with anybody on a transaction without I use Google, without putting something on my Google calendar. This is when I'm doing something with this one again. They said in 3 days. I'll be darned if I'm not marking my calendar for 3 days. Lori, call the lender. He said 3 days. Check in on the appraisal, right? So every time you put that file down, mark your calendar to pick it back up. Don't ever just put it. This goes for your leads too, people. Don't ever put a lead down without marking a date you're going to pick it back up. Okay. That's just, that is the follow-up that it takes to get things done. Again, being proactive, right? Anybody that you talk to. So if you are riding down the road, right? Talk to Google. Hey, Google, put on my calendar. Hey, Google, make me a task for this date. Now, oh, wait, shh, not now. I was just kidding. Hey, Google, don't do that right now. Anywho, so it works. See?
The calendar is definitely, I didn't pick that habit up until I guess a couple years ago. And it really changed my life to be able to put things in a calendar that I carry with me everywhere.
Yes.
And it takes the stress off of you too, because half of what you're stressing is just, are you remembering?
Am I remembering everything? Is there anything I'm forgetting? What else do I need to be doing? And you know what? And then I get up in the morning and I look at my calendar. Well, I'm not gonna lie. I look at my calendar at night before I go to bed. Because if I know what I have to do for the day, for tomorrow, I'm gonna sleep better. I'm not gonna be laying there all night going, when am I supposed to do that? Is that tomorrow? Or is that the next day? Right? I can look at my calendar. My calendar says follow up with A, B, C, and D. check in on A, B, C, and D, and I know exactly what I'm doing tomorrow. And I know how much time I need to allot for it, et cetera, right? Or what preparation I need to do for it, right? I need to follow up with the insurance company because we have this inspection coming up tomorrow. I need to follow up. I never got that clue report, right? Whatever that is. So always, always, always make sure that you are, I mean, I don't care if your calendar is paper. I don't care if it's written on your hand. Whatever works for you is the best system to have. Now, my mother still carries around this big, thick notebook of calendar, and she has these clips in it because the day that she's going to pay this particular bill is saved on that particular payday. She's an RN. You guys met her. She's an RN, so her little calendar is not little. It's about yay thick because it has all of her bills in it. It has all of her doctor's appointments in it. It has, if she's going to a doctor about these results, she's got those results in that calendar.
Yeah.
So it's right. This is where I learned to be organized about it. This is also where I learned to write notes. Like that whole Buffini thing that you guys take, like I learned it watching her. I learned it growing up. Like that was my practice. But it's also what it takes to get to the next level. Because if you're not doing all of this stuff, something's going to fall through the cracks. If things are falling through the cracks, you need to take a step back, give yourself an hour to look at your systems and what's not working.
You know, one of the softwares that I use for that on that note is called OmniFocus.
Yeah, do you like it?
Yeah, it works really.
Whatever works for you.
Originally, it was done just for Apple products, Macintosh and blah, 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 you know, the iPhone. But now they have an online version so that anybody can use it. And it works really great because the thing is, so like, let's say for something as simple as changing your air filter, you can set it up to remind you once a month or whatever, and it automatically reminds you.
I do mine whenever I pay my I do mine when I pay my water bill because my husband pays the electric bill.
Yeah, exactly.
I have water and groceries. So when I pay my water bill, like change the AC filter. It used to be my electric bill. When I paid my electric bill, I changed the AC filter. Now it's water bill.
Yeah, it reminds me to change my oil in the car. And
That's
then,
good.
so, but you can also use it to remind you to keep up with clients.
Yeah. You can use anything, whatever works. So that's a good tip. OmniFocus, if you guys want to jot that down, that's a good tip. Maybe an app
It
that
works
will
really
work
well.
for you. Okay, let's see. Questions to ask buyers, sellers, and lenders. I can't think of anything more that I have not discussed.
I have one more thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes you come across buyer clients that are like they're counting the pennies down to their monthly payment, like to the dollar amount.
Yeah.
And so there's really no way for you to make that calculation as an agent because it's much, or maybe there is, but it's a lot more simple to just ask your lender, hey, here's the address I'm at. And they
Yes.
can figure out there, you can say there's no HOA, but they know the tax rate
Yes.
and they can actually plug in the numbers to give them pretty
Yes.
much the exact payment amount that they're going to be looking at.
That's exactly the thing to do, Evan. When anytime my buyer asks me how much my monthly payment is, how much is my monthly payment going to be on this? Another reason to have yourself a lender that's going to respond promptly, right? When my buyers ask me that question, I just say that's a lender question. Let's ask right now, right?
Yeah.
And we ask, and then I show them the text when it comes in. This is how much he said it's going to be, right?
Yeah.
I've got one lender that will, right from the get-go, create a group text. Do iPhones have the option to pin a conversation? Like, you know how you pin a post to the top on Facebook or whatever? My Android has the option to pin a conversation to the top. When I am in the middle of a transaction, I keep that conversation pinned to the top.
That's good. Yeah, I don't know.
Because then I can easily access it. So I'm showing this buyer a house. She wants to know exactly how much, because she's counting to the penny. She wants to know exactly how much her monthly payment would be on this address. Because for some buyers, that
Mhm.
is a huge deciding factor as to whether or not they're going to get this house or the other house.
Yeah.
Right. And so when I ask them, do you like this one or that one better? And they say pretty much the same. How much is the monthly payment on each of them?
Mhm.
Because that's going to be their deciding factor. It's a quick text message because that text is pinned to the top. So I just pull that pin open and it just holds the message down and you can pin it. Oh, got it. Okay.
And see,
Perfect.
that's another thing that'll make you as a realtor either look really bad or really good, because if
Correct.
there are two houses that have the same price, but the tax rate is like a 0.5% different,
Yeah.
or there's a huge HOA, and then they don't think about those things, the buyer, and then they go and they're like, wait a second, like I didn't
I
realize.
can't afford this.
Yeah. And then that's not looking good on you as the agent.
Well, it's not, because typically we've already gone under contract by the time they realize it, right?
Mhm.
They've lost maybe an inspection fee.
Mhm.
They've definitely lost an option fee in having to opt out because they're not going to be able to afford it, or they're not comfortable enough to afford it, right? So yeah, it does. This is what sets you apart, makes you proactive. Once again, be the proactive one, be the one that gets this information, um, and presents it to them, and thinks of the things that they don't think of, right? Which is the reason that I send this email out saying, hey, before we make an offer, take into consideration, these are the things you're going to be spending money on before we ever get to the closing table, right?
Right.
Some lenders require the appraisal. The appraisal fee to be paid up front. When I send you this, look through it, know how much your lender, and you can get with Evan, she'll probably be able to help you with this, Bonnie. Know how much your lender charges for their appraisal, and put it in there and save that amount in your template. Don't save my amount. This is from my lender, right? Talk to your lender, make sure it's accurate. Don't save my amount of how much the inspection fee is going to cost. Talk to your inspector. Your inspector might cost a different amount,
Yeah.
right? But it
And
goes
and
through
I
it.
always on that note, I always give a range to my clients. I don't ever tell them, "Oh, it's $500 for the inspection,
No, no,
bring
no, no.
that."
Yes.
Because, sometimes there's a septic system or there's
Yeah, and
sprinklers.
this email covers all of that. I have literally used this email since about, well, I can tell you exactly. I created this email probably 2009 because I had a conversation with a buyer. It was right after I moved my business to Round Rock. One of my first deals, I had a conversation with the buyer, and he was like, wait, I have to pay for this inspection that day. I just put all of my money on the earnest money. I don't have any left. I was
Mm.
like, wait, what? You've also got an appraisal fee to pay for. And he
And a
said,
down
I'm going to
payment
need a
possibly.
list. He said, I'm going to need a list of everything that I need to pay, and we're probably going to have to pull out of this contract. And we did end up having to pull out of that contract. He got a list. I sent him the list, right? That's exactly where this came from. And it's got VA information in there. If the inspector flags termites, or you have a VA loan, you'll have to get a termite inspection that is in addition to your regular inspection at cost between this and this. I have ranges in this email. Your general inspection is going to cost between this and this. And I put in there, some of the properties we've been looking at have septic tanks. If a septic inspection would cost this amount, having it pumped, which needs to be done prior to an inspection, would cost between this amount. We're going to ask the seller to pay for it because it's their stuff. However, if they don't, you should be aware that this is the amount, right? We're going to ask the seller to provide or pay for a survey. However, if they don't, you need to know it's this amount, right? Just so they know what those costs are before they ever get under contract.
Yeah.
They have some preparation for it, right? Well, Lori, I can go under contract as long as I don't have to pay for the septic to be pumped. And as long as I don't have to pay for a survey, I can go under contract. Okay, great. I can work with that, and there's one thing that I'm going to mention to the seller's agent right out of the gate. We are not going to be able to pay for this and this. Tell the seller we won't have a deal if we have to pay for these things. That's a deal breaker for us. You should know it going in.
Yeah.
Makes negotiation easier.
Mhm.
So yeah, I will send this template out. I need to go through all of my templates and put them in a drive so that we can just share them with everybody. I found myself typing the same things repeatedly in emails. Do you know how to make templates in your Google email?
Yes.
So you just make a template of it. And then when you're sending it to this one particular person, you're going to hit that template. You're going to go in and adjust it and personalize it. Hey, it was great seeing you Tuesday. And then here's the list. You're going to take out VA because they don't have a VA loan. You're going to take out septic because they've been looking at stuff in HOAs. Whatever that looks like, you're going to personalize it for them.
Yeah. Perfect. Mhm.
So, but there's just so many emails that I had to, I was typing the same stuff over and over. And then finally I was just like, save that as a template, quit this repeat typing stuff and then have me forget something. No, thanks. Or have to sit there and think about it. It takes me 15 minutes when it could have taken me 30 seconds.
And I think everybody probably knows this, but also if you're making offers and say that you did have the initial conversation and you have that initial pre-approval letter that says 400,000, but you're making an offer on a $350,000 house, don't send that offer with the $400,000 pre-approval letter.
I use it strategically. Evan, I use it
You
strategically.
do?
If I need to prove to the like I've had a conversation with the seller's agent, they've lost because of a weak client and they were listed at 375. I might go ahead and send a 400 because I want to prove to them my client's not weak.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that I would use it strategically. But yes, there are many times that I want to call the lender and my lender gives me a link at the beginning so I can print that thing out
Yeah.
myself where I can go in and, make the adjustments and they've got it set where I can't go above a certain amount or, they've
Right.
got their parameters set. But he just sends me a link where I can go in and put in the property address and the price that we're offering and then it adjusts.
So, Lori, are you saying like in this situation, if you had a $400,000 pre-approved client, the asking price was $375, and you wanted to show that they're really strong in offering $375, you might present the $400,000 pre-approval.
Yeah.
But like if
Yeah.
it's listed at say $375, and we know it's way overpriced, and we're coming in at $350, you're probably going to adjust your letter to $350,
That's
right?
correct. That's
Okay.
correct. So it's a strategic move for me, right? Just like after the inspection, if I have gotten the vibe that this guy is just, whether it be the seller or the seller's agent is just trying to find a reason to pull out, I am sending that inspection report with my request for repairs. Right? Like I use that strategically also. Do I like as the seller's agent getting that report? Oh no, I don't. Absolutely not. But
It's
there
like, look,
are times that
I'm asking for 5 things and there's 50 things. So
yes,
work together here.
exactly. And I've already gotten that vibe that there's some pushback and whatever, then I might strategically use that. The information that you're providing, this so goes into negotiation. The information that you're providing has to be strategic, very, very strategic. Like decide how is this going to help or hurt,
Right.
and decide whether or not to provide it. Yeah. I can't wait till I can teach the negotiating again. Get all of you in there on that. Hopefully that'll be pretty soon. Does anybody have any specific questions? Have you come across a situation recently that you didn't know what to ask or didn't know what you needed to do? Have your agents come in with anything specifically that you want me to cover?
I think everything that I kind of brought up throughout this Zoom was stuff that I was seeing was kind of coming up.
Okay.
Trying to think. I will say, as a seller's agent, listing agent, I guess. Well, as a buyer's agent, I'm trying to see how this would work. I think in a smaller area, like Waco kind of actually is a tight knit
Yeah.
area. Even when you are showing property to a client and they're asking, the seller's agent's asking for feedback, be sure to give the feedback, because you might not be working with the agent in that deal, but it's likely you will eventually. And it really helps things that the agents feel like they're friends.
That
Um,
you're
so-
collaborative and
Mhm.
helpful. Yeah, absolutely. No, I completely agree. Always give the feedback. When
Yeah.
when roles are reversed and you have the seller, you're gonna want the feedback, right?
Yes.
And who knows, maybe they've been trying to tell their seller the same things that you're giving in your feedback, and they
Mhm.
need the seller to hear it from somebody else, which sometimes we can accomplish in our area with property tours. Do you guys have local?
No, that's something I've actually been wanting to start with, uh, the right partner, industry partner in this
Yeah,
area.
yeah, that would be good.
On my list.
And you know what? It may be something that you can get the association on board with too.
Oh, yeah. No, it would definitely, I'd want them involved too.
The
So,
one of the things that's been, and we can, potentially meet about this, um, you know, on another call, but one of the things that we see here is some of those partners, affiliates that work in a particular area, say
Mhm.
Hewitt or Lorena, right? Like having that partner sponsor it at their place so that
Mhm.
instead of starting in Waco to go to Lorena, you're starting in Lorena to do a Lorena tour. And then, you know what I mean? So
Yes.
sometimes
Yeah.
that's helpful too.
Yeah. I like that
I've
idea.
seen them start off at restaurants.
Yes. Mhm.
There's a company here that does them virtually. I wonder if they have a Waco branch.
I don't know. Yeah, I know I used to run into them sometimes if I were ever, like, at breakfast, like, in Lakeway. They would just meet at a
Yeah,
small little breakfast
I've been to
place.
that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
yep,
I
yep.
don't remember the place now, what it's called, but anyway, I thought that was good because you're not just talking about property, you kind of have a chance to talk about everything and every agent's listings, maybe if it's not even just there in Lakeway on the tour.
That's true. And another thing is if you are the seller, you're hearing what, because all of those other agents would potentially be bringing buyers to that house to show it. You're hearing what they're going to say to their buyers about that listing.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
And that's what I used to tell my sellers all the time. This is going to get other agents in the door. One, hopefully while they're here, they think of one of their buyers or a buyer that they've lost touch with that might want to buy this. But two, we're going to hear what they're telling their, because those buyers are listening to their agents, just like you, Mr. Seller, listen to me. Somebody else is listening to their agent. We want to know what their agent is telling them, and we're going to hear that through these property tours.
Right.
Yeah.
Which
Monty,
adds
what can I help
perspective
you with?
for you to be able to tell the seller, like, "Oh, yeah, actually, we do need this to be painted," or, "This is the feedback I'm getting. Maybe that's
Right.
why it's not selling," kinda
Yeah.
thing. And it's
Yeah,
not coming from you, it's coming from the party that would be buying.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. What can I help you with, Monty? Good to see your face.
Finally, right? No, you pretty much answered a lot with the lenders because I'm kind of having a little trouble with the lender that I'm dealing with right now. I say trouble, but she's just kind of lagging. And without knowing, I was calling her and asking those questions just because I know these people. So I think that's why I was comfortable because I was actually trying to get them going,
Yeah.
And so I was
Yeah.
the one back and forth and calling my clients like, come on, man, let's go, turn it in. And then
Yeah.
I'd get a hold of her, but she was not reaching out to me. I had to keep reaching out to her.
Yeah.
So with that being said, though, me and Evan have spoken about it. I want to find someone, like you said, where I can text them and they answer you. Or,
Yes.
like, oh, okay, you got a buyer, let's get them in.
Yeah.
But
Evan
haven't
might
found
have
any. You might
Evan's
have
got
some people.
3 that she likes.
Oh, yeah,
So
we've been talking about them.
Good.
Yeah, and I'm trying to network with another one. I actually used to close a couple deals in Lakeway with Movement Mortgage.
Okay.
And I've noticed that one of a more does a lot of business lender just moved to them. I didn't even know there was a branch here. And there is in downtown Waco now. And I liked them then because they had a software similar to like the title companies use a lot of times when they give you updates that they're actually automated. But I would know exactly when the appraisal was ordered. I would know when it made it through underwriting. It was all automated to me as the agent from the lender.
Right.
But it still like prevented me from wondering, or even, sometimes I didn't even have to call them because I already got
Yeah.
the notification. So I did like them for that. And I haven't noticed any other lenders I've been working with that have that software but them. So they're good.
Or maybe their company offers it and they just don't use it.
Possibly.
So, yeah.
I did have another question. So another somewhat difficult, I feel like I'm learning with all the difficult ones right now.
Hey, then
But,
that's gonna make you a stronger agent.
Yeah, it's making me like dig. But I have a client in Fort Worth that I'm working with on a Lennar home, and they've been a headache to deal with, like contact wise and whatnot. They actually just called me back for a showing on Saturday. But my client's a little bit older, so she doesn't want to put all the information in the app online.
Yeah.
So finally, we got a hold of the lender, but she's been approved before already, or pre-approved. So say we go Saturday, and I don't know if it'll be fast enough for them to pre-approve her by Saturday, since today's already Thursday, and the house is still on the market. How do we go about that if they try to tell her like, oh, well, what's your credit score like? Because she's already asked me that.
I can.
Go ahead, Evan.
So Marty, if most builders will do this, they'll say if you like the house, put down an earnest deposit. It might be just $50, and then they'll let them go ahead and go hold the house for them and get through that pre-approval with their in-house lender. And that she's pre-approved elsewhere. They used to require that when the market was crazy anyway. I don't think they do anymore, but regardless, she can present that to them for more to be more sure that she's pre-approved. And then for whatever reason, if she didn't get financing through them, they would refund her that money. But she can put down that money to hold that house, which I would say, because it's a closeout community and there's 2 homes available, do that if she likes the house, for sure.
Okay, and then with how she said that the house is going to be sold like weeks ago and it hasn't been sold yet. So obviously we'd go at asking price. There's no negotiation with that community, right?
I'd ask.
Typically, yeah, I guess you could see, but they're offering lots of incentives if to use their in-house lender. However, I don't know how they calculate that, if that's who's getting paid, who's offering the discount, if it's separate from the builder in a way. I'm not sure. We typically do let the contract go as their asking price.
Yeah, I figured, because it's Lisa, the one that I'm gonna deal with when I get there. Well, that's gonna be a headache. She's been a headache. She's rude. But I did see there's another house that was put back on the market, and it was originally $249 and now it's $250. Not a big difference, but it's back on the market. And apparently they keep getting put
Lennar?
back on the market. Yeah, because of the
So
financial reasons.
a lot of their corporate, they control those numbers from a regional standpoint. So they're probably just trying to regroup because it's the start of the new month. It's really it's more like apartment rents, like they fluctuate.
Okay.
And it has nothing to do with necessarily the community.
Okay.
Sometimes not even the market.
Yeah. Yeah. You're like, why are they increasing the price on these houses when everyone else is doing drastic decreases?
And
Well, and it
when
was
it's
off the
clearly
market
not
and put
selling.
back on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It went up instead of down.
Yeah, that's what they do.
Well, good luck
Yeah.
with it. And just help your lady, if she's not comfortable with the app, go to bat for her with the lender and say, hey, and I've had to do that, right? I've had to sit down with the builder because my older people were simply not comfortable or not able to get it done.
Right.
And I've had to sit down and say, hey, when you have questions, when you need this stuff done, call me. Call me. Because
Yeah.
she's having a hard time understanding it, getting it done. And, she just comes up to a block. She's going to call me anyway. You may as well call me. So I've had to go to bat for my clients like that. I go to bat for my agents too, but this is talking about clients.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marty, that might be a situation on Saturday when y'all go tour. If she hasn't been able to do the whole application, that you suggest that you guys go to a coffee shop and you sit through
Do it
and
with her.
figure out where
it
the
with-
holdup
yeah.
is, and then you can call the lender and figure it
Okay.
all out for her.
Yeah. I feel like that might have to happen.
You might
Um,
really be earning that 3% for that builder to write the contract.
Making me work for this easy one, supposed to be an easy one.
But I was telling her, Lori, I was like, you know what? I can't believe Lennar is not nicer to the agents because they have a terrible reputation offering 1% back in 2022 or 1.
Lennar has never been nice to agents historically.
I don't get that.
Man, I didn't expect
Historically.
that. I was like, whoa, lady, calm your horse.
So, but Lennar is also the first one that'll come in and go, but hey, we're paying you 5%, right? So in certain communities, they'll do this, huge increase and think that that's going to make everything okay. And I'm just
Yeah.
looking at them going, but I remember what you did. And I already told my mama, we can't go back.
She's
Yeah,
like, yeah, well, I sold 5 houses at 1%, so really you should be paying me 10% to make up for
right.
it.
That's right. It's true. Yeah. So good luck with it.
Yeah, thanks.
And on Saturday, if you need any assistance, I'm sure Evan is the same way. I'm just a text away,
Yeah,
just reach out.
Mhm.
And we'll get you through it.
Yeah.
sounds good. Excited.
You'll do perfectly fine. You will do perfectly fine. These hurdles, Evan went through this. It
Oh,
seemed
yeah.
like all of her first ones, she was like, why are they all so hard right now? I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, but it's a good start.
Yes. There's
Yeah.
definitely, but no deal's ever alike either. I mean, you might think you have it down, and next week it's like, wait a second, what am I doing?
Yeah.
When I have
But
an easy
that's
one,
where
I'm
we
gonna be
have
like, what am I
Lori,
doing
too.
wrong?
Because I think she has been thrown in every situation.
Yeah,
I mean, and quite frankly, here lately, I'm seeing situations that I haven't had to address since I was a paralegal. Like, I'm literally like reliving some of that
Wow.
lately. So,
one of the things I find interesting about this business is that every single client is like you're putting in you're looking for a new job every single time with every single client, and every single client is different. And
mhm.
so you have to meet their qualifications or whatever.
I
And
asked them that question. What are your expectations for an agent? At the onset, maybe it's the first few showings, maybe the first discussion for a potential listing appointment. What are your expectations for a realtor? I want to make sure I'm meeting those. Right? Give me your top 3. A lot of times I ask, what are your top 3 expectations? And
Yeah. And I think that's even more important almost with the sellers, because especially in a market where sometimes, we're not getting requests every week, but they're like, okay, what are you doing? Still checking in every Friday with a phone call, even if there's no difference.
exactly.
But I feel like with buyers, figuring that out at the coffee shop is great, but it's a little easier to stay on track with what they're feeling because you're seeing them more often if you're showing
Yeah.
them, weekly or whatever.
Exactly. You mentioned a very important piece there is calling that seller weekly, even if you have no new news, right? You're pulling open the MLS, maybe you're sending them an MLS sheet and saying, well, everything on this looks exactly the same as it did last week, except the date at the bottom.
Yeah.
Right. But they're hearing from you. And they're hearing, I have, we went on we had a property tour, 10 agents came through, this was the feedback. I sent it, by email, doing an e-blast to this number of agents, right? We did an open house. We had this many people come through. We had 3 showings. I followed up with each agent and I didn't get a response. Whatever it was that happened with that house, if you're giving them something, then it can be helpful. Sometimes if there's nothing else you can do, like, what am I going to tell this person whenever I talk to them tomorrow? Nothing has happened. We haven't had a showing. I haven't sent an e-blast. We didn't do an open house. I've got nothing. One thing you can do is really quickly open up your reverse prospecting, shoot all of those agents an email that have a client that's interested. And then you can say, I sent an email to 15 agents because they had a client that matched the criteria of your house. Boom, I did something for your house, right?
I love that one the most, honestly, because those are the people that are actually looking at it and viewing it and possibly have criteria that it meets. I love that tool.
Yep, exactly. So, and sometimes you can say, I checked for more buyers who like, and your clients don't know what reverse prospecting is, so you can't use that term, get away from the realtor
I'm
terms.
guilty of doing that too much.
And use something that they understand. Hey,
Yeah.
I checked the MLS and I saw that there are 2 more agents that have buyers that are searching for a house like yours. So I reached out to both of those agents, right?
Mhm.
I had reached out to the other 20 of them last week, but there's 2 new ones this week. I reached out to those 2 new ones.
Yeah. Another
So-
thing I've kind of like picked up on, if you're a seller's agent a lot and in this market, if you have somebody see a property and you have 5 other listings, maybe just mention those on the phone real quick when you have them on the phone giving you feedback. And just say, hey, in case you haven't noticed, I also have these available in case you have other clients or this client.
Right. No, that's a very good point. Because you could, one, they say, oh, maybe she's doing the same thing for mine.
Mhm.
Right. So, yeah, very good point. Good. And you're killing, if you're talking to an agent, you're killing more than one bird at a time because you're hitting all of your listings.
Mhm.
So you can add that to the list that you're telling the seller client.
Right.
And I pushed it to, 20 other agents that I happen to be talking to about another property this week.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and then they know you're actively proactive, right? They know you're actively marketing their place. You didn't just stick a sign in the yard. All right, guys. It was good seeing everybody.
Thanks, Lori. That was really, really helpful.
Okay, good.
Yeah, thanks.
Right. Bye, Maddie. Good luck.
Bye.
Can't wait to hear from you
Thanks.
Saturday. I want to see how it goes.
Great to see you.
I will let you know.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.